was the fall of 2007, and Lincoln High School was buzzing with excitement. The senior class was in full swing, preparing for homecoming, college applications, and the inevitable sense of freedom that comes with graduation. But amidst the typical high school chaos, there was an unsettling rumor that had started to circulate, a story about room 303, a forgotten corner of the school that had been locked up for years. No one really knew why room 303 had been sealed off. The official explanation was that it was under renovation, but anyone who passed by the hallway could tell that wasn't the truth. The paint was peeling from the walls, the windows were grimy, and no maintenance had been done in ages. The room was left untouched, as though frozen in time. Some of the seniors, mostly those drawn to urban legends, whispered about a tragedy, a student who had disappeared there decades ago, never to be found. Jessica wasn't one to believe in ghost stories. She was a straight-A student, always grounded in reality, and far too busy worrying about her AP classes to indulge in schoolyard tales. But one Friday night, after a football game, her friends dared her to check out room 303. It was a harmless prank to them, something to pass the time, but to Jessica, it felt like a test of her courage. She hated backing down from a challenge, so she agreed. They met at the school around midnight, sneaking in through a side door that had been conveniently left unlocked. Jessica's heart pounded in her chest as they navigated the darkened hallways, their footsteps echoing through the empty building. Her friends joked and laughed, but Jessica felt a strange heaviness in the air. The closer they got to the third floor, the more suffocating it became, like the air was thicker, more oppressive. Finally, they stood in front of room 303. The door was old and rotted at the edges, a thick layer of dust coating the brass handle. Jessica hesitated. Her friends egged her on, shouting for her to open the door. With a sigh, she grasped the handle and twisted. To her surprise, the door creaked open without resistance. The room was pitch black. Jessica pulled out her phone, using the screen's dim light to guide her. The moment she stepped inside, the temperature plummeted. It was so cold she could see her breath. A chill ran down her spine, and her friends went silent. The room smelled damp, like mold and something far worse, something metallic, blood. Jessica felt a wave of nausea but pushed forward, her phone's glow revealing old desks and overturned chairs. In the corner of the room, something glinted, a shard of broken glass. Maybe? She stepped closer. The air grew thicker, more suffocating with each step. Her breath quickened, and her heart hammered in her chest. Suddenly, her phone flickered and died, plunging her into total darkness. A deafening silence followed. Jessica froze, panic flooding her body. She turned back towards the door, but it had vanished, swallowed by the dark. She wasn't alone in the room anymore. She could hear it, a faint whisper at first, like wind rustling through leaves. But as it grew louder, it became a soft chant, unintelligible but rhythmic. Her skin prickled as the voice seemed to swirl around her. Her eyes darted around, desperately searching for her friends, but they were gone. "Guys," she whispered, her voice shaking. No answer. Then, she felt it, a cold, clammy hand on her shoulder. Jessica screamed and spun around, but there was no one there. The chanting grew louder, filling her ears, drowning out her thoughts. It was everywhere, in the walls, in her head. A cacophony of whispers that made no sense. She ran towards where the door had been, stumbling in the darkness, her heart pounding in her throat. As she fumbled for the handle, something brushed against her leg, something soft, like fabric. She recoiled in horror, her mind racing with images of what it could be. Finally, her hand found the handle, and she yanked the door open, tumbling into the hallway. Her friends were waiting outside, laughing, completely oblivious to the terror that had just consumed her. Jessica stumbled to her feet, gasping for breath, her mind reeling. "What happened?" one of them asked, still giggling. Jessica couldn't speak. She couldn't even think. All she knew was that something was horribly wrong with that room. She bolted down the stairs and out of the school, her friends chasing after her, confused. The next day, Jessica refused to talk about what had happened. Her friends, thinking it was just a prank gone wrong, let it go. But the experience haunted her. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, the whispers that seemed to follow her everywhere. And then, the dreams started, dreams of room 303, of a shadowy figure standing in the corner, watching her with hollow, empty eyes. A week later, Jessica stopped showing up to school. At first, everyone assumed she was sick, but when days turned into weeks, rumors started spreading. Some said she had a nervous breakdown, others claimed she'd moved away. But the truth was far more chilling. No one ever saw Jessica again. Years later, new students would whisper about room 303, about the girl who went in and never came out. And sometimes, late at night, if you stood outside the room, you could still hear the whispers, the same ones that drove Jessica to madness.